Hi. Can you beat freelance anxiety and actually succeed? Can you beat freelance anxiety and actually succeed? I'm asking this question for you. I've asked this question for myself, and I'm asking this question for a subscriber of mine, Natalia, who wrote in. She said, Roy, and it's a longer question, but I felt like even I edited it a little bit, but I feel like I have to read the whole thing to give it a thorough and complete answer. So she said, Roy, I've noticed that in theory, I may know what to do to get better clients for a longer term, and yet I'm reluctant to do any of those things and struggle greatly with my mental state and aptitude for networking or working long term on anything for that matter. I guess my general question is how to deal with yourself and do all those go-getter things when you're a traditional copywriter in a sense that you're neurotic, anxious, introverted, and all over the place. All your good advice about the marketing I need to do just makes me want to go back to bed. I barely make a living writing, not because I can't do the work or get clients, but because I work just enough to survive and seemingly can't get myself to do more. I'd love to change that and do something, but the very active masculine extroverted grit advice just increases anxiety and has an opposite effect. It's hard to distill what my question is. It ranges from, is freelancing neurosis normal? Am I crazy? To how do you guys manage to have so much energy, grit, and not get overwhelmed with all the marketing and business options to promote yourself and develop your business while simultaneously doing the actual jobs? And is the answer perhaps that you don't actually do those jobs or hustle because your income comes from selling courses to the poor D-listers like myself to overwhelm them with all the good advice for earning six figures and more? If I earn five figures, I'm quite happy. So yeah. I'm going to go check your gift bombs, Natalia. So working backwards a little bit, the gift bombs is actually the free gifts, the value bombs that I offer for subscribing to Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. So that's that reference there. And in reference to her second to last point, which was, perhaps you don't actually do those jobs or hustle because your income comes from selling courses to the poor D-listers like myself. The reality is that since 2010, the vast majority of my income has come from working with clients. In 2020, I did make a decision to kind of pivot. I'm still doing a lot of client work in terms of coaching and strategy and that sort of thing, but not actually doing copywriting work for clients. But all the way up until the beginning of 2020, that's exactly what I was doing, was spending the vast majority of my time doing client work. And so, yeah, that I'm going to set that objection or question off to the side at this point as answered. And I want to go back to the beginning because she was asking about how do you do this when you're a traditional copywriter in a sense that you're neurotic, anxious, introverted, all over the place. Well, let's rewind all the way back to seventh grade, up through sixth grade, where you do work in class and all of that stuff. I had no trouble doing well in school. But then when we hit seventh grade and suddenly we had these responsibilities outside of the classroom, I suddenly was faced with all these challenges, and suddenly school became much harder. And what would happen is I would do pretty well in most of my classes, but then there would be one class every term or semester or whatever where I couldn't do the work. I didn't do the homework. I didn't do whatever. And this actually continued all the way through high school up into college when my parents I'm thankful that they were actually paying for tuition. But if I failed a class, they actually made me pay back tuition. Well, that didn't last very long. I decided I didn't want to do that. And so I figured it out. I figured out that okay, I can put in the effort to at least get a B in these classes. Even if I don't love the class, I can do it. And what I figured out was if I did a few of the right things, I could do good enough. So for example, sitting in the front of class and getting involved in conversations was a fairly simple thing to do. It starts with sitting in the front of class. But then I'd get involved with conversations. Then I'd develop a relationship with the teacher. Then they might give me a sideways glance if I didn't do work on time. Then I started to be conscious about that. And I started to figure out how to do work on time. And a lot of times it actually, I did it the night before, stayed up all night because you do that in college, right? So but I figured out how to do it. I figured out just like how to do well enough to get through and be fairly successful. And to me, like that was that was a big learning experience that even when I didn't love to do certain things, if I could just figure out how to get them done, I could get the result that I wanted. And I actually, later on in life, after I graduated college, I went to a psychologist and they diagnosed me with ADHD inattentive, which when you go through that description, neurotic, anxious, introverted, and all over the place, that is ADHD inattentive. My body doesn't bounce off the walls, but my mind does. My mind is bouncing off the walls all the time. And that has at times been a hindrance. In fact, I remember a couple of years into my freelance career when I decided to try and treat that with ADHD drugs. And I took them for a while, and then something happened where I couldn't stop taking them because they're addictive, they're speed. But also they caused me to focus, but they caused me to focus in a weird way where like I was focused on one project that I needed to get done. To the detriment of all the other projects that I was involved with. And what would happen is like my focus on that one project, because I was getting paid by the project, like that drug out and I started making bad financial decisions. And it was really a problem. Eventually, like I got sick and I ended up throwing away my prescription. I tore up my prescription, threw it away. I threw the last couple pills down the toilet. Like I was done. And I learned later on that like, this is completely normal, especially for copywriters, but for any entrepreneurs, like we are different. So many of us are diagnosable with ADHD, and so many of us have gone through this. And I remember talking about this with Marcella Allison, great copywriter. And she was saying that like every great copywriter that she's ever met and like talked to or worked with, they've gone through a period of this too. And it's normal. It is completely normal to deal with these anxieties and struggles and peaks and valleys and whatever. And like, yes, you can get better at it. Yes, you can smooth it out. Yes, as you develop your career, you'll have to deal with it less. But the reality is that we all struggle, and no amount of success today is going to guarantee a life without struggle tomorrow. And no amount of struggle today means you can't be successful tomorrow. The big thing it comes down to is oftentimes anxiety comes from doing things that are unfamiliar. And so imagine yourself going into a dark forest at night, and it's an unknown forest. It's a place you've never been, and there's all these strange sounds, and you don't know what's like 20 feet off in the distance in the dark and all of that. Well, that's going to cause a lot of anxiety versus if you like step out into your backyard at night, you're not going to feel that same sense of anxiety because it's familiar versus unfamiliar. And I think that a lot of times this freelance anxiety, this like not knowing what to do, really comes from not having put in enough reps, not having done it enough. And you'll often find that like the more you do it, the more you'll realize success is simple. There's not like overwhelming all these marketing and business options. There's really just a few. And the more you focus on the important things, the more successful you will be. But the way that you find out what's important versus all of the overwhelming inputs that you get from, people trying to sell you things and everything else, the more you focus on those, or the more you actually do, the more you actually go out there and put in the reps, the less all those inputs are going to matter and the less anxiety that you're going to feel. Now I want to wrap this up. I actually keep on my whiteboard of reminders to myself, Dan Sullivan's 4 C's, which is a cycle. And it ends with confidence. So if confidence is the opposite of anxiety, it ends with confidence, but it starts with commitment. You commit to taking action. You commit to doing things. You commit to a good habit. You commit to whatever. You say, I am going to do this. And it's like an internal commitment, right? And that commitment often provokes this sense of anxiety, like going out and approaching clients or trying a new project or getting something done or like facing that fear of failure, right? It provokes this anxiety. And so you have to act with courage. You feel the fear, you feel the anxiety. You don't push it away. You accept it. Tara Brach has a great book called Radical Acceptance about accepting fears as they are and for what they can teach you, or accepting whatever for what it is, like any feeling for what it is and learning what it can teach you. But so you commit to taking action, and then you feel that fear, but then you act with courage. You feel that anxiety, but you act with courage. You act once, and you act another time, and you act another time, and you start to act with habit, right? And the more that you act with courage, the more competence you're going to feel, which is like, I've done this before, I can do it again. I've done this before, I can do it again. And then that competence breeds confidence, the feeling of like, oh yeah, I can do it again. I can do it. I can do this. I can, and then you commit to doing more because you have more confidence, and then you act with courage again, and then you develop competence, and then you develop confidence, and it's a cycle. And the more you do it, the less you'll feel anxiety from these things. And what you may see is like this energy, grit, not getting overwhelmed with all the marketing and business options. To me, it's just experience. It's like having been there and done that a bunch of times and learned from it and learned what's important and what's not, and not being afraid to go through the process again. And most importantly, like kind of losing that fear of failure. Not that I don't fear failure anymore, but it's that I no longer fear that I can't deal with it, that I can't handle it. I know that I can handle it. I know I embrace failure because I learned from it. And so that plus like just developing good habits, developing good work habits, that sort of stuff will help you tremendously with this freelance anxiety. So like just do the work, and doing the work is such a powerful change agent in your internal states and your anxiety. Because when you do the work, not only when you do it, will you be developing the habits of doing the work, but you will also be learning that the anxiety is really just, it's not knowing. And when you do, you start to know, and then the anxiety goes away. So my name is Roy Furr. This is a video issue of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. If I would love to have your comments and reactions in the comments below. Also, make sure you click that like button if you want more content like this. Also, so the magical algorithms of the internet know to share it with more people like you. And you can share it with people directly if you know somebody who'd get value out of this. And make sure you're subscribed. You can subscribe here. You can also go to breakthroughmarketingsecrets.com, get those value bombs in terms of the free gifts that you get for signing up. And you'll also get my emails Monday through Friday covering freelancing, marketing, copywriting, business building, entrepreneurship, selling, and more. Again, my name is Roy Furr. This is a video issue of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. I hope you've gotten a lot of value out of it, and I look forward to seeing you again in your next video. I'll see you soon. Bye.